begin with a brief explanation of the class trial. The objective here is simple. Explain how the murder took place. Using the evidence you've gathered during the investigation, you will argue what you believe happened to the victim. Should you all agree on the right answer, you will be free to leave this place. Should you all agree on the wrong answer, well, you'll find out. That's all there is to it. Have fun, everybody.
Somebody, get me out of here.
If this is something we must discuss, I know a good place to start.
Get me out of here, 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 get me out of here! Somebody get me out of here! What happened to her? Oh, shit! They fried her brain!
Calm down, it's only a shock. She won't suffer any permanent side effects. If I wanted to see the brain dead bicker, I'd just turn on the telly. On that note, please, carry on.
As you were saying, Wolfgang?
Right. The way I see it, the objective of this
By the way, can I get like a seat with this thing? I'm just gonna be an onlooker. It's only fair.
You're seriously not going to contribute?
What am I even supposed to do?
Put your detective hat on, buddy! We're here to solve a mystery!
Yeah, who murdered that dummy chick, right?
Not who murdered her, how they murdered her.
Did that tablet not explain it?
It listed her wounds, yes, but it didn't explain how they were inflicted.
Probably because it's so obvious.
But, Miss Amber, you didn't even read the tablet.
And I don't have to!
Would you look at that? A debate's already underway.
The mystery was never about who killed Kara, but how she died.
Is that true? Objection! It's obvious what the murder weapon was.
I didn't get a good look at the crime scene, but the body was pretty bloody.
And what could have spilled that blood besides that big, scary gun?
Ah, that's right. There was a gun.
You hear that, lawyer man? She agrees.
The mystery was never about who killed Kara, but how she died.
Is that true? Objection! It's obvious what the murder weapon was.
I didn't get a good look at the crime scene, but the body was pretty bloody.
And what could have spilled that blood besides that big, scary gun?
Ah, that's right. There was a gun.
The mystery was never about who killed Kara, but how she died. Is that true? Objection! I didn't get a good look at the crime scene, but the body was pretty bloody. And what could have spilled that blood besides that big, scary gun?
No, that's wrong!
Cassidy, can you stop butting in? You barely investigated the crime scene to begin with.
Whoa, what? I searched that place from top to bottom.
Alright, then tell me, how was a fully loaded assault rifle used as the murder weapon?
That's easy. It wasn't. Obviously, the shooter reloaded their gun to full capacity. Any smart shooter could tell you that. Right, Desmond?
Why are you bringing me into this?
Except, the victim suffered multiple stab wounds to the torso. If the gun was fired, not only should the body have had bullet wounds, but there would be shell casings from the fired bullets. We saw neither at the crime scene.
Details. If the gun didn't do that, chicken, what was the actual murder weapon?
I got it.
The bloody knife. It's just so blatantly obvious. It was literally right next to the victim's body.
Cam's razor gotta ruin everything.
Interesting. Both the knife and the rifle were present at the crime scene, but only the knife was used.
Kind of weird choosing the inferior weapon.
Nothing beats the sting of a sharpened blade.
If the killer didn't use the rifle, why was it at the crime scene?
Maybe it came from inside the closet.
Don't see why you'd be storing a gun in a janitor's closet.
Man, I don't know. What if it's not even related to the murder?
Of course it's related. It's covered in blood.
Oh no. Everyone's starting to yell.
To reiterate, both the rifle and the knife were next to the victim's body.
Yet they opted for the knife. Odd choice.
I bet that gun didn't even work. These days, it's all about aesthetics over effectiveness.
That's like your opinion, lady.
If the gun was broken, then the killer would have no reason to bring it with him. And yet, they did.
Watch it be for the aesthetic.
To reiterate, both the rifle and the knife were next to the victim's body.
Yet they opted for the knife. Odd choice.
I bet that gun didn't even work. These days, it's all about aesthetics over effectiveness.
That's like your opinion, lady.
If the gun was broken, then the killer...
No, that's wrong!
Stop that thought right there. If we keep assuming the killer had the gun, we'll end up running in circles.
What? You think the killer was unarmed?
No, they were definitely armed. With the knife. The reason they didn't use a gun is probably because they never had it to begin with.
But then, who did?
Easy. The victim.
Whoa! The dummy had the gun?
If it wasn't the killer, it has to be her. She must have brought it to the closet. She was probably carrying it before the murder, but dropped it when the killer attacked her.
Oh, I guess that makes some sense.
Complete sense.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. Aren't you overlooking something?
Huh?
The victim was stabbed from the front, meaning she could have seen the killer coming, correct? If so, why didn't she shoot them?
A stealth attack! I bet the killer memorized her AI movements.
That girl must have been killed before she had the chance to defend herself.
That's not technically true. There's evidence of a struggle between the victim and the killer. This is it. We found dry blood under the victim's fingernails, which implies she was clawing at her attacker. Of course, no explanation is definitive without photo proof of the killer, but I'm confident this is what happened.
Why would you resort to scratching when you're carrying a gun?
Did something get in the way of her using it?
Wonder if that killer stole it from her.
She should have seen or heard him coming from the hallway at the very least.
Why do you think she was in the hallway?
That's where the fight happened, right?
I think you're getting ahead of yourself. How can we be sure the fight happened there?
Maybe the fight started in the hallway, and after it ended, her body was dragged into the closet.
If that happened, shouldn't there have been streaks of blood on the floor or in the hallway?
Drag marks? Can't say I saw any.
It was merely a jest. No need to take it so seriously.
Instead of dragging the victim, what if the killer carried her? I don't know why they would want to do that, but it would explain the lack of drag marks.
But then, wouldn't the killer have been covered in...
Blood. Aye. It should have gotten everywhere. Those wounds were brutal. A few inches deep, I reckon. Carrying her would have done nothing to stop the blood flow.
Good point.
She was obviously killed in the closet. That's where the blood was?
Yes, you're right. I'm so sorry for derailing the conversation.
Moving on. That fight. The victim had the gun, but she was overpowered?
If she wanted to, she could have just, you know.
It doesn't make much sense, does it?
That slimy killer pulled a fast one and knocked the gun out of her hands.
By the sounds of it, those two did have a crazy tussle.
But she still carried a gun. So why didn't she shoot?
I bet that girl didn't even see them coming.
Maybe she thought the killer was her friend? I know I wouldn't hurt a friend.
She tried clawing their eyes out.
That slimy killer pulled a fast one and knocked the gun out of her hands.
By the sounds of it, those two did have a crazy tussle.
But she still carried a gun. So why didn't she shoot?
I bet that girl didn't even see
I got it.
John actually has a point. The victim probably couldn't see what was going on. According to the tablet, she suffered chemical burns to the face and eyes. That sort of injury would have effectively blinded her. Also, inside the janitor's closet, there was a large empty bottle of bleach. That's probably the chemical that caused the burns.
Blinded? With bleach? That's horrible!
All that pain, yet she still managed to fight back?
She sure put up a struggle. Without a gun, I guess the next best thing was her hands.
So the killer was definitely the one who blinded her.
Indeed. Knowing she had a gun, he blinded her to make her less dangerous. Then, when he pinned her against the door and stabbed her, she tried to retaliate.
Until eventually dying from her wounds. Jeez, this is brutal. Couldn't they have toned down the violence?
The past is in the past, and we can't change that. All we can do is solve her untimely death, eh?
I mean, by the sounds of it, we've already figured it out, right?
No, not yet.
Seriously?
But we've already discussed so much!
We know she was armed. We know she was blinded. We figured out how she died. How is this not a closed case?
Please understand, I'm proud of everyone's hard work so far. Because of you, we're one step closer to bringing the victim justice.
This was never about the dummy.
However, we should think of this case like an equation. Knowing how it works is only half the struggle. Now we need to figure out why.
As in, the motive?
You're on the right track.
You speak like we have any information on the killer. The man's a stock image. He doesn't even have a name. What are we supposed to ascertain from that? That he's a non-character?
Not every answer will be written down for you. Sometimes actions speak louder than...
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold the phone!
Grace?
Whoa, what? Since when was Grace back to normal?
Right now, Soybean. Watching you guys try to solve this mystery has been like watching a dumpster catch on fire. I guess all that smoke must have clouded your vision, 'cause there's a big-ass elephant in this room.
An elephant in the room?
That's giving us too much credit.
So the killer incapacitated that girl. She had a gun, it makes total sense. Problem is, you've yet to explain how he used the bleach.
I sort of assumed he spilled it on the victim.
Right. He just tipped the bottle over her.
That bottle is where the bleach came from, sure. But I doubt the bottle itself was involved in the murder. When we found it, it was neatly ordered on a shelf near the back of the closet. The gun and knife were just thrown on the floor, so it's weird this weapon was handled so differently.
Do you think the killer just poured the contents of that bottle into something else?
Sure, before the actual murder took place, I'd say.
And what is this something else? Go on, explain it before this dumpster turns molten.
Well, if the original bottle's been emptied, where'd the bleach go?
Into another bottle?
What about a container? There were a bunch in the closet.
I bet the killer had a secret water gun. So when the victim came in, pow! He squirted her in the eyes.
Hey! The ink vanishes when the battle's over.
Call the fire brigade, Grace.
Well, if the original bottle's been emptied, where'd the bleach go?
Into another bottle?
What about a container?
Oh.
Well, if the original bottle's been emptied, where'd the bleach go?
Into another bottle?
I got it.
She's correct. the killer put the chemicals in a bucket. Or, more specifically, the same bucket we found at the crime scene. After all, it reeked of bleach. If the killer didn't use it to transport bleach, what else did they use it for? Personal cleaning? I doubt it.
Yo, that makes sense!
A broken clock is right twice a day.
Okay, cool. So, how'd the killer use that bucket to spill bleach in the victim's eyes?
It would be a fairly heavy bucket, so it's unlikely he threw it on her.
She'd shoot him before he even had the chance. Use your brain, mate.
Of course, my apologies.
Even if he did manage to splash her, the girl should have sustained intense facial burns. However, aside from her eyes, her face was relatively untouched.
Well, if you check the tablet, it said she had burns to the scalp, too.
Burns to the scalp? How does that work? Unless those chemicals came from above?
Above. Which, well, could mean anything.
Was the killer hiding above the door frame?
There's no way they were up there. There's nothing for them to sit or hold on to. Not to mention, they couldn't have stabbed her from up there.
And if there's no place for the killer to sit, then there's no place for the bucket to sit.
Unless you take into account the size difference.
Eh?
The space above the entrance might not be able to support a person, but it could still support something as small as a bucket.
And that thing supporting the bucket?
I got it. I don't know how we overlooked this, but I've got it. The killer just balanced the bucket on the door.
Like in those water bucket pranks people film?
Exactly. When the victim came into the room, she pushed open the door and caused the bucket to fall on her. This would make it so she couldn't shoot back or even get a chance to see her assailant. When the bucket hit the ground, it probably rolled away. That'd explain why we found it a couple feet from the victim.
That is a possibility, yes.
It sounds like the best conclusion.
There's just one problem. How was the killer able to reach that high? Unless they were abnormally tall, it'd be difficult to place something on top of that door.
Well, let's use that as our next point of discussion. How did the killer set up this trap?
The killer stood on the bucket to place the bucket?
This is it. There was a stepladder hiding behind the closet door. The killer probably used that. After climbing it, they could position the bucket right on top of the door.
Figures.
My precious stepladder? You think the bad guy used my super duper obvious stepladder?
Match point. Occam's razor.
Yes, it appears our killer didn't care much for subtlety. No matter how obvious it seems, it's the only answer that makes sense.
It was the only knick-knack of its kind, too. If there's something else that killer could have used, it's escaping me.
I see. It makes sense with what we've got so far. But I'm not done yet. I still have one last question for you apes.
Please just leave us alone. Oh, I'm so tired.
Hey, don't be like that. Grace may be loud, but her questions have really helped our discussion.
Anyway, what was the killer doing when that bucket poured onto the girl's head?
He obviously didn't just stand there and observe.
I've got it. The killer was hiding in the back of the closet. If he was pressed up against the furthest shelf and facing the entrance, there'd be a diagonal path between him and his victim. I say diagonal because that's the only way you can make a direct charge forward. Also, when the victim entered the room, she would have been standing with her back to the hallway, right outside the killer's range. That's why the stab wounds were only made to her chest.
Creating the crime scene we found! Great job, guys! We're actually doing this!
That was the last mystery, right? We must have put everything together now.
Even if it's all fake, I feel really bad for this victim.
It's an ugly sight, but she's no victim.
Huh?
Well, technically she is, but... Let's be real. The girl was carrying a gun. She probably provoked the killer, and they killed her in self-defense. It's a clear-cut case of the hunter becoming the hunted, no?
That's no excuse.
What?
There's no justifying murder. Killing a woman is the worst thing a man could do.
You're emanating a sizable amount of emotional tension. Are you okay?
There's no excuse. There never was an excuse. 28 stab wounds! No girl, no person should ever suffer Kara's fate.
Wait, who's Kara?
It was the victim's name! Didn't anyone read the tablet?
I agree with you, dude, but you don't have to shout out your point.
Oi, what's all this about? We've figured out the case. Stop trying to drag it on.
No. We're not finished here.
Huh?
There's no murder without a proper motive. We need to discuss why Kara died.
I am not going this far for a fictional murder case. We aren't looking for a murderer, we're looking for answers, which we have.
Do you turn in a half-finished exam, Winona? An essay without its conclusion? This isn't about efficiency, this is about being right. Or do you, a supposed entrepreneur, not value integrity?
What the hell?
Let's just talk about the motive. There's no harm in doing that, right?
Well, what was the motive? Was the killer fighting for their life? Or were they going out of their way to murder?
Maybe the gun freaked him out.
If I was in the killer's shoes, I'd definitely be nervous. Thing is, while acting out of self-defense is possible, since when does it look like this?
Given the severity, I'd liken it to a crime of passion.
Something done on impulse?
What if they were frightened? A spooky thing might have set them off big time.
That's wrong. There's no way this was done in self-defense. No matter what excuse the killer uses, it doesn't change the fact they have blood on their hands.
Yo, bud, you seem a little pressed.
Silence! I won't allow this! To kill Kara so easily and without restraint. There is no way to justify this.
Take a chill pill, man.
You expect me to stay calm? This was the sadistic killing of one of humanity's brightest!
We shouldn't make a lot of assumptions about the killer's morals. This could have been self-defense.
You don't even know the damn killer. Just the crime scene they left behind.
This killer, dead or alive, deserves to be brought to justice!
But how can we do that? There's no reason to trust you if you have no proof. So says the ultimate liar.
To kill Kara so easily and without restraint. There is no way to justify this.
Take a chill pill, man.
You expect me to stay calm? This was the sadistic killing of one of humanity's brightest!
We shouldn't make a lot of assumptions about the killer's morals. This could have been self-defense.
You don't even know the damn killer. Just the crime scene they left behind.
This killer, dead or alive, deserves to be brought to justice!
But how can we do that? There's no reason to...
No, that's wrong!
Expertise shouldn't be overlooked here. If there's anyone to believe, it's the lawyer.
Say what?
Wolfgang has spent his life in the courtroom and on the crime scene. He'd understand the criminal mind in ways we can't possibly imagine. He was even emotionally invested in a murder case he'd never seen before. If his lawyer's intuition tells us that the killer was in the wrong, then we have no reason to disagree. We're all ultimates for a reason. We need to trust in talent.
Well spoken. If Wolfgang is adamant about the killer's intentions, we should have faith in him.
Yeah! Wolfgang's clearly trying his best for us.
Let's trust in the lawyer and his bargain bin buddy!
Hey! If it means going home, then new guy's convinced me.
Right on! Team Wolfgang all the way!
Thank you all for your support.
Well, Eva, do you still disagree?
Even if I did, it's not worth pursuing. Does this mean we're done here? Hey! We're Disembodied Voice! We've figured out your stupid case! Now let us leave!
Oh, you're finally done. In all honesty, I stopped paying attention a long time ago.
What? We only went through this case because of you.
Silly me, I have a short attention span. So, just for my own benefit, why don't you summarize the information you've learned? It'll be good practice.
Fine. I'll do as you ask. I'll present the truth.
We'll present the truth together. Let's dig into it.
This is how it happened. The victim was Kara Koshkinen, the ultimate teacher's aide. Right before her death, she was wandering around the academy carrying a large assault rifle. That was probably when our unnamed killer, who was armed with a knife, spotted her.
And decided he'd put her to eternal rest. He slid inside that little janitor's closet, where he began hatching a deadly scheme.
Aye, they needed a way to surprise the victim, who was better armed. The killer grabbed a bottle of bleach from the closet and poured its contents into a bucket.
That's because they wanted to blind Kara by splashing the bleach in her eyes.
Sneaky little bastard.
But to do that, they would need to set a trap and catch the victim by surprise. The killer moved a stepladder behind the closet door and climbed up it to reach the door frame. There, they carefully placed the bucket.
That way, when the victim opened the door, the bucket would empty its contents all over her.
After completing this setup, the killer retreated to the far end of the janitor's closet and waited for the victim's arrival. The killer could have made noise to attract the victim's attention. Either way, the victim tried to open the door.
And, the bleach splashed all over her. Her scalp, face, and eyes were severely burned.
Yikes!
The killer leapt from his hiding place and began viciously attacking Kara. In his fit of rage and cruelty, he stabbed her from the front 28 times.
While being stabbed, the victim tried to fight back by clawing at the killer. This left the dried blood under her fingernails. However, it didn't deter the killer, and the victim eventually died.
At present, we don't have enough information to reveal the killer's true identity, but their actions haven't been forgotten. That is the truth behind this case. Well, are you satisfied?
A measly 3 acts. Poor Horace would be beside himself.
Who the hell is...
No one cares! We've done your end of the bargain. Now let us out already!
That is what I promised, isn't it? All right, I'll let you leave this room. But before I do, may I be frank with you all for a second? This entire time I've been hiding behind a speaker, afraid to show my face. My heart tells me you'll react cruelly to it. However, my head, it raises a compelling argument. Who cares what others think? Shouldn't I get to have a little fun once in a while? Yes, let's do away with these silly boundaries already. It's time we meet face to face.
What was that all about?
Everybody, look over there!
Toss away those pickaxes, peasants! The walls have finally crumbled. What will you do now that you've reached the other side? Will you treasure this new land? Serve it? Or will you set it ablaze? Well, peasants, have you made your choice?
Yo, what the fuck is going on?
Are you the speaker guy?
Speaker guy? No. You don't address your superiors like that. Within the halls of this academy, you'll refer to me by one name, and one name only. His Highness, the great and powerful Tozu, host of the Killing Game!